Exactly. Can you make that sound again, Victor?
Yep. This is the hardest day in my life as a Steeler fan. I've watched them lose to Tim Tebow in the playoffs. I've watched them lose the Super Bowl. I've seen a lot of fluky stuff, but as we stand here today, I have 136 messages from people that I know that are just clowning me because we just lost to the Houston Texans in the most embarrassing fashion. As we speak, that's now another message coming in. I won't hear the end of this one for years. This was tough to watch.
Welcome in, everybody. This is the post-game show, post-game rant here. Steelers and the Texans. Steelers fall flat on their face, break their nose on the concrete, and there's blood everywhere. 30-6, the final score. They did not just lose to the Houston Texans. They got embarrassed by the Houston Texans. They got emasculated by the Houston Texans. And they got neutered. They got neutered by the Texans. Yep. Neutered.
Yep. This one seemed personally a little worse than that San Francisco game because I feel like in the San Fran game, even though the score was what it was, there was good kickoff returns. There was times where they did drive the ball. All in all, Joey, if we're going to be a repeating record, and I know we can go all day, it's coaching. Once again, even though it's so insignificant, Tomlin wastes time out in the second half when you don't need to. Once again, the play calling on the offensive side was just terrible, to say the least. Once again, you're playing down to your competition. Once again, you cannot get anything offensively. And honestly, another thing, I know they're tired, and you got to cut them some slack. But if you're going to have the highest paid defense in the league, can they act like it for once? I mean, they're the worst rush defense in the entire league. Can
I also add to this too? In the 4 games this season, and this one is much more difficult to swallow than the San Francisco game, because at least one with the San Francisco game, you knew that the 49ers were above your class. Yep, so this was one where you sort of felt like you were on even footing with this team, for one, and two, through 4 games this season, the Steelers have gotten outscored by 38 points. They got housed by San Francisco, housed by Houston, should have absolutely lost to Cleveland, and if Vegas would have managed that game better last week, lost to Vegas too. This team should be 0-4. It is a disaster fest.
It is. All jokes aside, let's have a prayer for Kenny, because if that is a season-ending injury, then that is just a season-ending thing as a whole. But I'm going to say something too, though, that depending on how this season ends, and I said this after the San Francisco game, maybe this organization needs to be humbled. Maybe that's what they need. Because I think for far too long, they've kind of been in their own ways, and there's never been a losing season to really say, well, now you need to do this because you feel like, oh, well, they're almost there, or, well, they had this when they still went 8-8, or they went 9-8. You know what I mean?
I'm going to say it. They're not even close.
No, and maybe this is the year they need to go 6-11 or 5-12. You know what I mean? Maybe they need that to happen. As much as it's going to hurt us as fans to see it, maybe you need that for change. And I think if he's not out for the year and comes back, you got to seriously evaluate Kenny Pickett, because I'm just not confident. I'm not confident anymore. I think he's regressed, and I think he's regressed due to this coaching staff.
And we can honestly say, I know we've said this again. Matt Canada got him hurt today. 4th and 1. On that 4th and 1 play, 4th and 1, you're actually running the ball today. And you go,
and I said that.
And you go with a shotgun pass?
Yep. Well, yep. And another thing that bothered me is when they took the time out to even go for it. I'm like, you know what, at that point, get on the board. Just get on the board. Make it a 1-score game. I know from the second that play came out, I wish you would have heard me. I told my brother, I'm like, why are they going shotgun? Najee has been running this ball pretty damn good most of the game. I think he was more than impressive on the ground. And at that point, if he doesn't get the first, well, at least you live going out like that, right? You don't go out with possibly losing your guy for the year. I'm sure we can all agree with that.
Yes, and I will add to this. Of course, there's no official status or anything like that yet, but you know how there are, doctors on, Twitter, like, the one guy who was the former
and they're
doctor.
usually pretty right. What are they saying?
They're saying they're not sure whether it's just an MCL or an ACL, but if it's an MCL, it's a minimum 4 weeks. And I'll say this, that performance against the worst on paper, the worst offensive line I have ever seen. The Texans were on their third tackle, Kendrick Green at guard, their third center, a backup right tackle. They ran for 139 yards, and C.J. Stroud did not get sacked once. Like, what is that, man?
I don't care how rusty, how tired you're the highest paid defense in the National Football League, and that was the result. And that's Tomlin's defense. And I don't know. I've come to the conclusion today that it was never Tomlin, it was Ben. I think Ben, for most of my life, was the reason this team was stable. You had a top 5 to 7 quarterback ever in the building, and he kept everything together. And I think it's showing. I think that the young talent on this team is being held back by the coaching. And as much as it might be maybe an extreme or a hard move, if you're not going to have Tomlin change his ways in the sense that he gets a guy who's a game manager for him, or he gets a head coach on the offensive side that you might lose, then
change him. Change him.
You got to get out of him.
Mm-hmm. Because this is... Do you realize that if you're going with Mitchell Trubisky, you have the Ravens next week, you have a bye, then you go to the Rams. This could turn into a disaster fast.
I know.
It's going to be the last 4 years have been Steelers offense 2019 without Ben, and that's what it's going to be again.
Yeah, it has been.
It's going to be hideous.
I was kind of, it wasn't pretty, but I was feeling a little better about them after the Vegas game. And this was a game that if you were going to take some, a step this season to have anything worth relevance, this was a game you had to win. It's an AFC game. It's a team you should beat. There's no reason why you shouldn't have beat the Texans just now.
Rookie quarterback with the worst offensive line on paper I've ever seen. And you don't touch anybody. You don't touch anybody.
And they got out-coached. I mean, honestly, Houston's play calling, I had to give it to them, was really damn good.
It was
play
smart.
Calling and execution was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the youngest team in the league, too. That's coaching. That just tells you they were out-coached. The youngest team in the league just put it on you.
Uh-huh. And they sleptwalked through the whole first half again.
The youngest team in the NFL just put it on you. That's coaching, man. That's all that is. That is absolutely 1,000% coaching. Because it's like, when you just let elite talent try to win every time, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. There's a reason why the coaches are there. That one, I don't know if I'm making sense, but there's just a reason why they're there, man.
Except for these ones.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. I really don't. It's sad, man. It's really sad. And as a Steeler fan, I have a hard time holding on to some hope or seeing anything getting better anytime soon. And I don't know about you. I don't know about Hollywood, but I think a change needs to come. And this is going to be a year where we need to have a rough one. It is what it is. And I don't think that's an overreaction. What Steeler Nation have you seen on both sides of the ball, or even schematically on the coaching side, that says there's hope or maybe something they can get it together?
If change needs to come, it's sort of like what happened this past season with the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins had that 16-year streak where they made the playoffs 16 years straight. The front office was a disaster. The front office was a mess. They missed the playoffs. Everyone in the front office cleaned house, was gone. And they got one of the top general managers in all of hockey. And changes were made. And
so sometimes, yeah, and this is something that I've always been told in life, not just in sports. Sometimes you got to do uncomfortable things to get comfortable. And clearly, maybe something uncomfortable needs to happen with this team to progress.
Yes, and can we, last thing here, can we also say this here, and as well, everybody, we will, as soon as we have information on Kenny Pickett and his injury status, we will let you know, of course. But one last thing here, I know that the team got neutered today with this performance, but is it me, or did the same thing happen to the head coach? I mean, all these 4th down field goals, 4th and 2, down by 17, punting the ball. You're not gonna come back if you're not going to, you know, have some chutzpah and go for it.
Can I say something else that I noticed too real quick, and we'll end it right here?
Yes.
I have to admit, though, that was probably the most defeated he's ever looked in a very long time, facially. Every time they showed him on the screen, you could tell that
he should be.
He should be. But that was the first time that I can remember them. Every time they got a clip of him, he looked defeated, and he should be, like you said. And
he should be. Be better.
And where you were right, and you said this even before the season. What was your biggest fear? That this coaching staff will ruin Kenny Pickett? And I think we're already there.
In week 4.
Because Kenny Pickett he's not a young quarterback. He's already in his 25. Whatever peak he was going to get was going to be pretty soon here.
And he's hurt.
That's all I got. Yeah,
and he's hurt. It's not looking good, Steelers Nation. It's not looking good. They lose 30-6 today. They're somehow 2-2. And I have no idea how they're going to try to get up next week for the Ravens. I really don't.